Hey everyone, this is Veronica. Thanks for joining me for my video today. This is a different kind of video. It's a tag that was created by Claire Smith, who is also a fragrance reviewer here on YouTube. I hope that you will check out Claire. She created a tag about scent memories. So this isn't about perfume per se, like we're not going to be talking about perfume bottles. If you would like to stick around and learn some more about me as a person through these questions that Claire has formulated for this tag, please stick around. I will also be tagging some folks at the end of this video. Let me tell you a little bit about Claire before we go on. Claire is actually Dr. Claire Smith. She is a scientist based on what she has said, and she does some really impressive work that she shared a couple of quick notes about me. And I have a lot of respect for that, someone who has that kind of daytime career and still manages to find some time to share with us her love of fragrance. And if you haven't checked out Claire's channel, you really should. She presents some really interesting content from a science perspective. So she's like Bill Nye the Science Guy, except for perfumes. And she does such a lovely job of presenting this really interesting, scientifically based content about fragrances. Yet she has this appreciation for something that the rest of the world might consider to be rather frivolous: scents, fragrance, scented water in a bottle. She has an appreciation for the art form of it and marries that with her background. She's also really pleasant and beautiful inside and out. And she's based in the UK and has what I love, a British accent, so delightful to just listen to. So Claire, thanks for tagging me and thanks for coming up with this really interesting video tag idea. It is an intimate tag in the sense that it's designed to help you learn more about the person that you're viewing and for the person that is being viewed to share more with you. So it's a bit of a vulnerability thing, and I like it. I'm here for it. I really appreciated what Claire shared during her video. I learned a lot about her and felt like I connected with her. Two paths that were unlikely to cross except for our love of fragrance together. I think it's really neat that she gave us this window into her life and she invited so many people to do the same. So I'll be tagging some people at the end. Let's go in. It's about scent memories. And the first one is about my first scent memory is. Like, what do I first remember smelling? So I have to say I'm Puerto Rican, and I grew up in a family that where my parents had just migrated. They were the first generation to migrate into the mainland United States. We know that Puerto Ricans are citizens. Everybody knows that, right? Of the U.S. But they migrated into the U.S. So in many ways, there's a lot of like first generation cultural stuff that happens in the Puerto Rican community. One of my favorite first scent memories as a young girl, we lived in an apartment that was upstairs from my grandmother who lived, and my grandfather who lived in the apartment underneath us. And we had a lot of family over on the weekends, especially Sundays. There was usually like a big family dinner with aunts and uncles and cousins and all of that. And one of my earliest scent memories was a huge pork roast in the oven, which is a big thing in island culture and in Puerto Rican culture especially. It's called the pernil, right? Pernil. And it's just a big pork roast that's put in the oven, lots of garlic, lots of different kinds of spices put together. And you cook it for the majority of the day. It's like a slow cook kind of thing in the oven. And it just entirely smells up the house in a really delicious, mouth-watering way, waiting for the roast to be ready. And of course, they would cook rice and pigeon peas and all of that with it. And it was just like a delightful smell that wafted through both of the apartments where we waited for the dinner to be ready that we could enjoy with our family. Another favorite scent memory of when I was young is Italian bread, hot Italian bread, buttered, freshly buttered. So we lived over what is called a bodega, which is like a little mini grocery store that's inside of a building an apartment building or something like that. So our bodega was right, like we had to walk out of our front door on the stoop and then take a hard right, and it was right there. And we would run downstairs, especially on Sundays, and get a huge loaf of Italian bread, hot or heat it up when we got upstairs. It was freshly baked, and we would cut it open and just slather it with butter. Totally unhealthy, but just eat the whole thing. Me and my sisters, we love that. So the smell of the inside smushy part of bread and pork roast are some of my earliest scent memories. What does happiness smell like? That's the next question. For me, when I think of happiness, lots of different things come to mind. But for the biggest part of my life, I would have associated happiness with citrus and with fresh cut grass. I have lots of really wonderful memories of going to spring, summer, early fall events. I'm talking about concerts. I'm talking about barbecues, family get-togethers. I'm talking about like fall harvest, parties and things like that. I think they're called fall festivals, enjoying freshly cut grass, along with citrus. For a long part of my life, I wore heavy citrus fragrances and just love that happiness, the effervescence, the lightness of citrus fragrances, the carefreeness of it. I associated that with being happy, with sunlight, with feeling fresh and vibrant and full of life and hanging out with friends, and just like at the time of your life with not a care in the world, no worries, really completely kind of living in the moment. Next is love smells like. Love smells like. And I could say a lot of things. I will say that mostly love smells to me like a fresh bouquet of flowers, probably because I associate expressions of love with fresh flowers, especially most recently my wedding, where I had a gorgeous, huge bouquet of flowers, a lot of white florals, including some beautiful roses in there, some gardenias and magnolias, and just really a gorgeous big teardrop bouquet. And it smelled so amazing when I picked it up. And the bouquet that our daughter had, and then the boutonnieres for the guys, they all just smelled so fresh and beautiful, and it made me happy. And I associate that excitement and the love that I felt for my family as we, joined our families together with a bouquet of flowers or flowers in general. So that's what love smells like to me. Heartbreak and loss. What does heartbreak and loss smell like? Whew, I would agree a lot with what Claire said, which was it smells like salty tears. I mean, who among us hasn't experienced some kind of awful heartbreak or terrible loss of, family or whatever, and had just, one of those really raw, long cries that just seemed like it would never end, where you're sobbing. So I associate a lot of like salty tears, sweat coming down your face and tears coming down your face with heartbreak and loss. But I would also associate sweaty sheets, like on your bed, sweaty sheets. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I've had a really terrible heartbreak or loss in my life, the last thing that I want to do is interact with the world. I want to get under the cover and just kind of crawl in the bed and cry yourself to sleep and hope that it all goes away when you open up your eyes. You know what I'm saying? And you're hot and you're sweaty and you're going crazy because of the loss, whatever that is. And your sheets are sweaty. They're sweaty from you. And they're sweaty and wet from your tears and all of that. So I associate sweaty sheets with heartbreak and loss. I appreciate that Claire put that question in there. It's such a vulnerable question. What does friendship smell like? So lots of different things, but what came to mind immediately when I read that is frozen yogurt and pizza. So I had some really lovely friends in high school that I'm still fortunate enough to be really great friends with now. I consider them my sisters. Sisters from other misters, so to speak. You've heard that expression, I'm sure. But in high school in particular, we loved going out for frozen yogurt. TCBY. Who remembers that chain store? It's still around in some places, but I haven't seen it as much as I did in our high school years. And we love just going in there and sampling yogurt and then figuring out what we wanted to eat and getting our little cup of yogurt and walking around town and feeling like we were on top of the world with our little yogurt. I also remember us grabbing a slice of pizza. So the smell of freshly baked pizza, a slice of pizza, a big New York City slice, you guys, not those little pies you get out of Pizza Hut and stuff like that. I'm talking about a good old-fashioned big fat slice of pizza with a little bit of Parmesan cheese on it. Oh my gosh, it really reminds me of feeling youthful and happy and just hanging out with my friends, wandering around, hanging out, having the time of our lives. The next one, success smells like, to me, leather. Leather. Maybe that's why I like leather so much in fragrances. I tend to associate leather with success because when I finally started doing better in my career, enough to make some what I call frivolous purchases, I got into purses and actually purchased some really nice higher end leather bags that to me signaled my ability to put some disposable income toward that and not have to feel bad or guilty about it. Since then, I think of leather as being associated with things that I would use for work to comfort me, like a pad folio. I have a really nice leather one that I just love. It means so much to me. It's very symbolic of finally settling into a career that I love. So leather is associated with success to me. The next one is the worst smell. Whew. We'll go past the obvious thing. It is the smell of a hospital room. This is really kind of raw, but if you think about when someone's about to pass away, they're in their final days and they're in a hospital, you know, the hospital does their best to keep the room as clean as possible, but there's something in the air in the room that is stale and maybe not the best, you know, bodily smells and so forth, that reminds me of death. You know, a person is in their final days. I can get into a lot of stuff. Like if you are in the medical field, you understand what I mean when I say the word death rattle. Someone that's on their deathbed and they're breathing a certain kind of way, and you can tell they're probably in their final hours or days. Anything like that, any of those smells that are in that space, I would say is the worst smell to me. Ideal vacation smell. What does your ideal vacation smell like? Pina coladas, of course. I love the smell of a freshly made pina colada at the bar. Doesn't matter if it has any alcohol in it or not. In fact, I love a virgin pina colada just as much as the other kind. I just love the sugary, desserty taste of pina colada. It's refreshing, it's fun, exciting vacation smell. Like, yes, I'm finally here and relaxed and I can have a good time. I think the same of mangoes. Like I have been in tropical locations where people have picked fresh mangoes and coconuts, for example. Or suntan lotion is a great vacation smell that, you know, can you go wrong with suntan lotion smell? I love it. Especially, you guys, if you haven't tried Neutrogena Beach Defense, it's in a yellow container. The smell that they put in there, the fragrance is amazing. That stuff needs to be bottled. Okay. My house smells like, it really depends where in the house you are. If you're here in our bedroom, you see all these fragrances here, and then there's more fragrances in our linen closet. This part of the house typically smells like some kind of fragrance we've been spraying. We do love to burn candles, and we really like candles that have like a sandalwood smell or an oudy smell, or something that tends to lean a little bit more masculine, like a pine smell or something like that. So we burn a lot of those. In my office, I like to burn candles that are seasonal. So right now in the summer, I have coconut pineapple smells burning in my office. And I also have a lot of gardenia and jasmine kinds of candles. Like there's one called Jasmine Gardenia that's waiting to get burned. I can't wait. It's going to be so nice. We're not really big into super fruity smells in the house. I'm not opposed to that, but we prefer sultry smells that are a little bit masculine to waft through the house. And then I like my seasonal smells, like in the fall, anything that smells like cloves and cinnamon and fresh apples and that kind of thing. The first thing that I smell in the morning, no question, is usually coffee. Off screen here on the side is a table just like this one. We have a little table just like that, and it's got a Keurig machine on it. And I make my coffee here in the morning, and then my husband does coffee in this espresso machine that he just loves downstairs, a fancy espresso machine. So it's coffee up here and it's espresso downstairs, and it's, you know, fills the house with this beautiful, freshly ground coffee smell. The last thing I smell at night is usually a sample or a decant of some kind. I will try 2 or 3 on at night, and I'll go home smelling, I'll go to bed smelling like a whole like potpourri of fragrances, and I enjoy that. The scent that I love that others usually don't. So I don't know that other people don't like it, but I think of dirt. Just dirt, like potting soil, yard dirt, anything like that, that earthy, wet dirt smell. I just love it. It grounds me. It makes me happy. It makes me feel connected to nature. I really like that. And I also like the smell of hot asphalt. So I'm not talking about asphalt as it's getting laid down and all the fumes and chemicals that come off of that. I'm talking about like in a city. In fact, one of the smells I like that most people hate is the smell of New York City streets. Have you been? Do you know what I mean? The stinky smell of Subway. I don't like the smell of Subway. Who am I kidding? But above ground, the streets smell dirty, earthy, concrete-ish, asphalt-ish, especially in the summer as the heat is rising off of the ground in the streets. There's something about that mix of smells that feels like home to me, whereas other people, when you haven't lived in New York and you go visit, you immediately know it smells. It's kind of weird, and people don't like it. But for me, I love it. I step out of the car in New York after arriving and I'm like, it's home. I like that a lot. The last question is, I smell like, fill in the blank. I, Veronica, smell, I think, I hope, I smell like hair products and fragrance. I love for my hair to smell good, so I have, when I wash my hair, I do so with really nice smelling products. A lot of Aveda hair products. If you're familiar with Aveda, their products smell like a spa. Oh my goodness. Those are my answers to Claire Smith's tag on scent memories. I would love to tag a few folks. By the way, if you haven't been tagged in this and you would like to, I would love to hear your responses, and I'm sure Claire would too. But here are a few people that I would like to specifically tag. Bougie Fragrances, that's Dawn. Joss at Joss Jane. I'm not sure if Claire tagged you, Joss, but if she didn't, I'm tagging you. Jay at Masked Man Reviews. I'm tagging Giselle at GB Fragrances. Marcial at Marcial's Blends Fragrances. TeraMichelle at Opinionated Scents. Would love to see you do this tag. Maggie at Totalfashionzents. Brooke at Brooke Sosa. Please, would love to hear your responses. And then Kia at Yummy411. I would tag the whole world, but we'd be here all day. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing if you haven't. For those of you that were returning, so glad that you hung out. Take care and be well.